Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the News First team.
And I'm Peruni Karnaratna. Here's a look at your headlines for tonight.
Reports reveal that 2 Sri Lankans in Israel are missing or dead. An agreement with the China Exim Bank on Sri Lanka's debt. Will Dhammika be given candidacy? Father and son respond.
අපේක්ෂකයා කවුද කියන එක නෙවෙයි. අපි අපේ පක්ෂයෙන් ජනාධිපතිවරුන්ට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්න ඕන තරම් අපේක්ෂකයෝ ඉන්නවා කියන පණිවිඩය ගන්න.
SLPP and the president are plotting to delay the elections, says the lawyers of the Jatika Jana Balawegaya. Farmers on hunger strike in Siabalandua against the loss of generational farmlands. Centuries by Sadira and Kusal Mendes against Pakistan at the ICC Cricket World Cup.
Now, in your top story for tonight, although reports are circulating that a Sri Lankan woman who was missing in Israel has been murdered, Sri Lankan ambassador to Israel, Nimal Bandara, says that this has not yet been confirmed.
The ambassador said that another Sri Lankan in Israel is suspected to have been abducted. He said that there is difficulty in confirming these reports as military operations are still underway in the region.
Reports have been circulating that Anula Ratnayaka, a resident of Iriavatia Kalania, had died in Israel. The Sri Lankan embassy in Israel said that a member of the family that she worked for in Israel had put up a post on social media saying that Anula Ratnayaka had been shot and killed. The Sri Lankan embassy said that her family has been informed of this. The embassy had requested the Israeli Foreign Ministry to allow for her body to be inspected. The embassy expects an opportunity for this to be provided as soon as the operation in the south of Israel concludes. Anula Ratnayaka, a mother of 2, had been working in Israel for 10 years.
I think only Anula is working in that village, but she has friends elsewhere. Last evening they told us that Anula has passed away and that they were sure of that. Then we asked them how has Anula died when the old lady she was taking care of had survived. Then they told me that Hamas was abusing the old lady and Anula had come to save her and that it was then that she was shot. That is all the details that we have for now. I spoke to the old lady thereafter, but she said that she doesn't know. Anula spoke to me at about 1 p.m. on Saturday. She had sent a message to our daughter's phone at about 1:42 and said that rockets were being fired there and that they were inside of a concrete bunker inside the house. We didn't get any information about 2 p.m. on Saturday. She must be wounded and still in hiding. I want to know officially if she is still among us.
Officially මට මෙයා ඉන්නවද කියන එක පිළිබඳ තමයි දැනුවත් වෙන්න ඕනේ. හරි අමාරුයි ඉතින් එකපාරටම ඉතින් දරා ගන්න.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan ambassador to Israel announced that another Sri Lankan has been kidnapped and is suspected to have been murdered.
An attack was launched from the ground, air and sea. This was an unexpected attack. Because this attack was launched after a 3-week long holiday with the end of the holy year, the attack was launched towards the west of Israel. There are about 20 Sri Lankans in this region. We didn't receive information about 7 people. 4 of them had reported to work thereafter and the embassy was informed of it. We received reports that 2 people were missing and that 1 woman had been killed, but we have not been able to verify this. We requested permission to leave the embassy to inspect the bodies. We were not allowed to do that because the military operations are still underway. We might get permission to go to that region tomorrow. If that happens, we can confirm if the deceased woman is Sri Lankan.
Who is the Sri Lankan who is missing?
යටිවර බණ්ඩාර නැවති 48
Yativara Bandara, a 48-year-old resident of Venapur, is missing. We have informed the Red Cross about this. The Red Cross informed us that they will get the names through their headquarters if there is a program to exchange prisoners between Gaza and Israel. These names will be put forward. So if Yativara Bandara has been taken into their custody, we will be able to find out about it. If he is not in their custody, we will have to examine the corpses at the hospital and look into his whereabouts.
පරීක්ෂා කිරීමෙන් අපිට බලන්න වෙනවා.
Sujit Priyankara, a Sri Lankan who worked in Israel, has been injured. Are Sri Lankan nationals in Israel safe?
The government of Israel issues a statement saying that Israeli residents in the vicinity of Gaza have been evacuated and they will be relocated to other areas. There are about 17 Sri Lankan caregivers in this region. They will get an opportunity to move to another location. Besides that, the situation in about 95% of the country is normal. There is a fear in Sri Lanka that there is a massive war here, but there is nothing like that. When there was a war in Kilinochchi, the day-to-day lives of people in Colombo were normal. It is a similar situation here as well.
Hamas launched a strategic operation on the 7th of October and breached Israel's borders. About 1,500 people have been killed in the subsequent escalation of violence between Israel and Hamas. About 3,000 people have been injured. Thousands of residents of Gaza have been displaced due to the escalation in violence. Foreign media reported that about 73,000 Palestinians have fled their homes and are at UN refugee camps. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, said that Hamas had abducted between 100 to 150 people and are currently holding them hostage. Hamas has warned that if Israel launches an attack without warning, they will execute the hostages. Meanwhile, 5 state leaders of Western nations have issued a joint statement condemning the attack by Hamas. The statement was issued by the state leaders of the United States, Britain, France, Italy and Germany. They point out that there is no legality in the terrorist acts perpetrated by Hamas and that it cannot be justified in any way.
The long-standing Israel-Palestine conflict reached its deadliest day in nearly 50 years on Saturday morning as an intense barrage of rockets was launched, with some reaching as far away as Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, while Palestinian fighters entered southern Israel by sea, land and air. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that Israel is just getting started after the worst attack on its soil in decades. The Israeli military said it regained full control of the Gaza fence and declared a full siege, cutting off water and power supplies. The latest death toll stands at 770 Palestinians in Gaza and more than 900 people in Israel. After hours of intense bombardment by Israeli jets, Hamas said it would execute an Israeli captive for every civilian house bombed without warning. The leaders of the US, France, Germany, Italy and the UK vowed on Monday to support Israel and condemn the attack by Hamas militants. Furthermore, India extends support to Israel, where Prime Minister Modi tweeted on Saturday that India stands in solidarity with Israel. US President Biden told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday that additional assistance for the Israeli Defense Forces was on its way to Israel and more would follow in the coming days. US Vice President Kamala Harris also held a call with the Israeli President. Iran has come forward to support Hamas and has been a generous supporter of Hamas for many years. Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi has declared his country's full support to Palestinian resistance groups against Israel. Qatari mediators have held urgent calls to try to explain freedom for Israeli women and children seized by the militant group and held in Gaza in exchange for the release of 36 Palestinian women and children from Israeli prisons.
The Bloomberg website reported today that Sri Lanka has reached an initial agreement with the Export-Import Bank of China, or Exim Bank, regarding the loans it has received.
Meanwhile, other bilateral creditors except China are also scheduled to reach a basic agreement within the next few days regarding the restructuring of Sri Lankan debt.
A spokesperson of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs Wang Wenbin stated in today's daily press conference that the Chinese Exim Bank has reached an agreement regarding Sri Lanka's debt last month. However, Bloomberg says that he has not revealed any further details regarding the agreement. The spokesperson of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs pointed out in the press conference that Chinese financial institutions participated in the discussion between the other creditors on an observational level. Bloomberg reported that Chinese financial companies participated in the discussion of the creditors and had very friendly communication with other parties at the observation level. China has given about 51% of Sri Lanka's bilateral foreign debt, and other bilateral creditors including India, Japan and France recently said they will reach an agreement on debt restructuring with or without China. They have planned to sign these agreements at the annual meeting of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank in Morocco.
The much-awaited World Economic Outlook of the International Monetary Fund will be released today.
News First is the only Sri Lankan media organization at the IMF World Bank annual meeting in Morocco. News First, Zulfiq Farzan filed this report.
The analysis and projections contained in the World Economic Outlook are integral elements of the IMF surveillance and economic developments and policies in its member countries, of developments in international financial markets and of the global economic systems.
Now, in a more global perspective, the Economic Counselor and Director of the Research Department of the IMF, Pierre-Olivier Govincius, stressed that structural reforms at the right moment are critical, and first-generation reforms will actually unlock growth reforms for the future as well. Now, on Sri Lanka, the Division Chief of the Research Department of the International Monetary Fund pointed out that Sri Lanka's structural reforms are bearing fruit, and these reforms need to continue. Now, this was discussed in detail at the press briefing that was held earlier in the day.
I'm Zulfiq Farzan from Sri Lanka, representing News First. My question is based on Sri Lanka, but I would appreciate if you would also give a global perspective as well on the region. Several countries are currently undergoing a debt restructuring process, and in the IMF World Economic Outlook, you had mentioned that the projections for countries including Sri Lanka have been excluded because of the negotiation processes going on. How long do you think that this process will take place for countries like Sri Lanka to achieve a certain degree of growth in the future while also meeting the creditor expectations?
Thank you. So on Sri Lanka, the people of Sri Lanka have shown remarkable resilience in the face of enormous challenges. Sri Lanka has made commendable progress in implementing difficult but much needed reforms, and these reforms are already bearing fruit as the economy is showing tentative signs of stabilization. Inflation is down from a peak of about 70% a year ago in September 2022, down to below 2% in September 2023. Gross international reserves have increased and shortages of essentials have eased. Now, despite early signs of this stabilization, full recovery is not yet assured. Growth momentum remains subdued, with real GDP in the second quarter contracting by 3.1% on a year-on-year basis, and high-frequency economic indicators continuing to provide mixed signals. So sustained reforms, continuing with these reforms, is going to be critical to put the economy on a path towards lasting recovery and stable and inclusive growth.
Now, the IMF also said that it is monitoring the situation involving the conflict between Israel and Hamas, and stressed that this would definitely have an impact on the global and regional economic stability. However, they said that it is too early to underscore how greater or how large this impact would be on the region and the globe. Representing News First, the only Sri Lankan media organization here at the 2023 IMF and World Bank annual meetings, I'm Zulfiq Farzan from Marrakesh, Morocco.
Indian Foreign Minister Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar arrived in Sri Lanka this evening.
News First correspondent reported that accompanying him are 3 senior officials from the Indian Ministry of External Affairs. The Ministry of External Affairs has confirmed that Dr. Jaishankar is visiting to participate in the 23rd Council of Ministers meeting at the Indian Ocean Rim Association, also known as IORA. A delegation of Indian Embassy officials, including the Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, was present at the BIA to receive the visiting group.
A group of farmers in Siyabalandua began a hunger strike opposite the Divisional Secretariat office, demanding the return of the traditional farmlands that they used to cultivate on.
The Villas, a traditional farmers' organization consisting of farmers from Kotigala and Athimale, began their hunger strike yesterday. These farmers allege that they have been forcefully removed from the land that they had been cultivating for nearly 3 decades. They claim that the Forest Department had taken over their land, leaving them in a precarious situation.
We won't end our protest until our farmlands are returned to us. We have conveyed our message to everyone, including the President. They have promised solutions today, tomorrow and even after 3 years, but we haven't seen any resolution. They are trying to evict them because these lands hold significant archaeological value. Do you know why these lands of archaeological value remain untouched? It's because our community has safeguarded them meticulously, treating them as precious as they treat their farmers. Due to their diligent care, these treasures remain intact to this day. However, there is now a threat of outsiders coming in, wielding power and attempting to take them away. That's the situation at hand.
The News First correspondent says that one of the farmers who had been on hunger strike this evening had fallen ill and was hospitalized. When inquired by News First, the district secretary of Munaragala, Pasan Ratnayaka, said that his office is unable to intervene in the matter.
Schools that were closed down due to floods in Mathura and Gaul will be reopened tomorrow. The Mathura District Secretariat said that zonal directors must make decisions regarding the inundated schools.
අද දවසේ අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා පාසල් වල පිටවල තියෙන අපේ සුරක්ෂිත මධ්‍යස්ථාන.
We are planning to take out the safe centers established at the schools. That is because schools are needed to be reopened tomorrow. The district coordinating committee decided to reopen the schools in the Mathura district tomorrow. There can still be schools which are inundated. The responsibility of those was handed over to the zonal directors.
ඉතින් වගකීම කලාප අධ්‍යක්ෂකවරුන්ට පැවරුණා ඒ කලාපයේ සම්බන්ධව.
Attention was drawn to the flood situation faced by the people at the Mathura district coordinating meeting today.
If there are schools that are difficult to be reached, the committee should be notified of such. Then we can consider granting some relief. Apart from cleaning school premises, we have identified the wells and public toilets that need to be cleaned in the area.
The Mathura and Gaul districts were the most affected due to the continuous rains for the past few days. 24,403 people in the Mathura district are still affected from the floods. Houses in Mathura, Katuangoda, Narangoda, Thalgahgoda, Thudava and Pilduwa are still inundated by the floods. It was observed that some people had camped on security dams. Areas including Piladuwa, Valpola and Thotupola roads are still inundated.
This is the B1 sluice. Villages including Veragampitia and Pilladuwa and 3,000 houses were submerged, not due to floods and not due to rains. In some houses the water levels don't go down. That is because of a large stream of water in 10-15 canals is coming down from the small sluice. We experienced this same issue in 2017 as well. This is a problem we faced since we were young.
Currently, the flood situation in Akurasa and its surrounding areas is gradually receding. Our correspondent said that some people are coming back to their homes. But this is the situation in the lowlands of Kadduwa North, Navimana area. The people of the flooded areas have been sheltered in the Mathura Technical Institute and several temples. The Department of Meteorology says that there is a high possibility of strong lightning with thunderstorms in the north central, eastern and central provinces this evening or at night. Issuing a warning about severe lightning, the department stated that Badulla, Kegol, Vaunia and Mana districts may experience severe lightning along with thunderstorms.
Former President Mahindra Rajapakse, the leader of the Sri Lanka Polujana Peramuna, visited the Bellanvilla Rajamaha Viharaya this morning.
The former president visited the chief incumbent of the Bellangwila Rajamahavihara, Venerable Dr. Bellangwila Dharmaratna Theru, and engaged in a cordial conversation.
ජනාධිපතිවරණයක් ගැන තියෙන කතාවක් සර් මොකද්ද පක්ෂයේ තත්ත්වය?
අපි අපේක්ෂකේ දානවා අනිවාර්යයෙන්.
ඒක ධම්මික පෙරේරා
ධම්මික මට කියන්න බෑ කවුද කියලා. පක්ෂයේ තීන්දුව කරොත් කවුරු වුණත් අපි යාට වැඩ කරනවා.
Meanwhile, MAA Rajapakse also responded today regarding Dhammika Pereira's candidacy.
ඔබතුමා දකින්නේ පහුගිය දවස්වල මාති වාර්තා කරනවා ධම්මික පෙරේරා මහත්මයා ජනාධිපතිවරණයට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන ආය කියන කතාව. ඔබතුමාගේ බාප්පා මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයා ඉන්නේ එතුමත් එක්ක ඉන්නවා. ඔබතුමාගේ තාත්තා ඉන්නවද නැද්ද කියලා අපි දන්නේ නැහැ. තාත්තා උත්සාහ කරන ඔබතුමාගේ අතර බැටල් එක දෙන්න. ඔබතුමා මොකද හිතන්නේ වුණොත් පක්ෂයේ සමාජිකයෙක්?
The first thing is that this battle cannot be handed over. How many people were waiting for that battle? Namal Rajapakse is not the only president's son in this parliament. There will be a leadership that is needed for that time in the country. It is clear from the statement that a gentleman like Dhammika Pereira is ready to run even in the Podujana Peramuna. This shows strongly our party is building. So we, the party members of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna in this country, have to take a final decision on who the candidate is.
අවසාන වශයෙන් තීන්දුවක් ගන්න මේ රටේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොජ්ජන පෙරමුණේ පාක්ෂිකයෝ.
I think the message to take from this is not who the candidate is. Get the message that there are many candidates from our party to run for the presidential election.
Samagi Janabalawegya says that the president is trying to get the party's presidential candidacy by using the backbench MPs of SLPP.
Now
we are getting information that the government has submitted a new bill to the cabinet to amend the parliamentary election system. What is the need to bring in amendments all of a sudden? Ranil Wickremesinghe is trying to fool the backbench parliamentarians of the SLPP. That is what he is trying to do. Clearly, to change the system of the parliamentary polls, there needs to be a constitutional amendment. We will not let you have 2/3. We will not let Ranil Wickremesinghe delay the election. He knows very well that he is not the SLPP's presidential candidate. What he is trying to do is trap and scare Basil Rajapakse and get the support of backbench parliamentarians in order to acquire the SLPP candidacy.
Lawyers of the Jatika Janabalawegya claims that the president along with the SLPP is taking control over the politics in the country. They made these remarks speaking at a media briefing in Kegol today.
Now Ranil, Mahindra, Gotabaya and Basil are coming together. What are they working together for? They are trying to cancel the executive presidency and delay the presidential election. They are trying to cancel the elections with the post of the executive presidency. Not only the local government elections, they are also delaying the parliamentary elections for various reasons. The people of this country are waiting for an election. We will teach you a lesson. They know what they are destined for, no matter the election that is held. That is why the higher parties demand elections. No matter what is done by Basil, Mahindra and Namal, they all know what the end result would be. So they are asking for the elections. They are going to the people, they are organizing the people, but they are supporting the Ranil Rajapakse government to delay the elections underneath. That is the real situation.
SLPP parliamentarian Rohit Abegunawardena says that the next budget will have to be defeated if the burden is put up on the people of the country continuously.
If this budget proposal is prepared by the ministers on their discretion, and if the ministers continue to put the burden on the people, we will have to take a decision. If they are not listening to us, why would we vote in favour? As a party, they should listen to us. We aren't asking for pounds of meat. The entire country knows that there is an economic crisis in the country. It is not only in our country. The entire world is facing this crisis. But it is not a solution to continue putting the burden on the people. I am in the government. The SLPP has the strength to point out what is right and what is wrong to the government.
News first with the people.
Divi Savya, the second leg of the Divi Savya program to provide much needed school books and stationery items to school children in Sri Lanka. 11th of October, Padireppu, Maticlow Central.
දයි දරුවන්ගේ අනාගතය වෙනුවෙන් දිවිසවිය LOLC ප්‍රජාසත්කාරක මෙහෙවර.
Welcome back to the news. A special program to promote the port city of Colombo as a financial city to investors was held recently in the United Arab Emirates under the chairmanship of former British Prime Minister David Cameron. Addressing the international investors, David Cameron pointed out that steps are being taken to improve the port city of Colombo as a financial city by introducing a separate financial system.
The Colombo Port City project in Sri Lanka has the potential to become a major economic hub in the region, according to former British Prime Minister David Cameron. Cameron spoke at the recently concluded Port City Colombo UAE Roadshow, where he highlighted the project's many advantages, including its strategic location, world-class infrastructure, and business-friendly environment. The Colombo Port City is a special economic zone and offers a range of incentives and benefits for businesses, making it an ideal destination for international investment.
The rules are being set by a Sri Lankan authority. Yes. It's not being set by someone else. This is still the sovereign territory of Sri Lanka. Yeah. The Chinese company has a lease on a part of it, but that repairs fully back to Sri Lanka. And I think that's important because, I mean, over time, many of these special economic zones, they succeed and then they help to change the country for which they're succeeding, and they over time become less necessary because the investment has come in. But for investors who don't have to invest in any country, they have a choice. I think trying to make sure you are an attractive choice is a good move. And, you know, the PricewaterhouseCoopers study shows this could create over 200,000 jobs. It could make a substantial contribution to Sri Lankan GDP. And the IMF, while there's some skepticism in their report, it does say this will be a good opportunity for businesses to invest in Sri Lanka. So I think it's about making the most of what is already there. And I think it's a very good, as I say, to be here and also this evening in Dubai, to talk about the opportunities for people to invest in it. And as you and I hope, that this will be part of the ongoing Sri Lankan success story after what has been a very, very difficult decade. But I think one of the things we can do today is sort of correct some misapprehensions about it. I mean, when you read the press about it, you'd think the whole thing was owned by China, run by China, governed by China, and the Sri Lankans had made a terrible mistake. But when you actually look at the facts, the fact is, it is owned by Sri Lanka. It will be governed by rules made by Sri Lankans. Yes, the Chinese have invested, and the port reclamation was absolutely essential. But it's now for others to invest alongside that and try and make a success of this project.
The Colombo Port City project is a major development project in Sri Lanka that has the potential to become a major economic hub in the region. Former British Prime Minister David Cameron has endorsed the project, and it is likely to attract significant investment from around the world. Did this program achieve successful results?
මූලික අරමුණ අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මැද පෙරදිග රටවලින් අපිට අවශ්‍ය බොහෝ විදේශ ඍජු ආයෝජන ලැබේ කියා. මෙහි
Our main expectation is to attract foreign direct investment from Middle Eastern countries. A special feature of this was that former British Prime Minister David Cameron made a special interpretation about Sri Lanka and Port City to launch our foreign investment development mission and also to encourage investors. This resulted in responses much better than what we expected.
විශේෂ විග්‍රහයක් අපේ රට සහ මෙම ව්‍යාපෘතිය පිළිබඳව කිරීමයි. ඒ මගින් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වූාට වඩා විශිෂ්ට ප්‍රතිචාරයක් එමගින් අපිට ලැබුණා.
What is the future of the Colombo Port City?
බදු සහන සම්බන්ධයෙන් අවශ්‍ය regulation.
We sent a message to the world market as soon as the necessary regulations regarding tax relief were passed in August. We are now open to do business with the world. The port city is not a tax haven. With the launch of foreign direct investment, the port city will become a leading South Asian special economic zone for service exports.
විශේෂ ආර්ථික කලාපයක් කිරීමට
Colombo Port City is currently run by the Colombo Port City Economic Commission, established by an act passed by the Parliament. Various concessions and exemptions have already been granted to the port city under a number of acts, and it is being implemented as a strategic development project.
The Sri Lanka Army, the proud defender of the nation, who strive to protect the peace and sovereignty of the nation, celebrated their 74th anniversary today. A special event to mark 74 years of excellence in defending Sri Lanka was held at the Panaguda Army Cantonment today. Lieutenant General Vikum Liyanage, the commander of Sri Lanka Army, was the chief guest of the event. In line with the 74th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Army, 314 officers and members of 1,565 other ranks were promoted by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. 7 major generals, 12 brigadiers and 37 colonels were among those who were promoted. The Sri Lanka Army was established in 1949 and served Sri Lanka with honour and pride for the past 73 years and has been recognised for their service in the Asian region as well as the world.
I respectfully call to memory the soldiers who fulfilled their duty and sacrificed their lives for the nation. I hope and pray that the soldiers who are still receiving treatment will recover soon. I proudly state that the Sri Lanka Army will fully contribute to the government's plan to build the nation in a manner that is suitable to the current economic policies of the government and will continue to serve the people in the future as we have in the past.
The mortal remains of the late veteran artist Jackson Anthony will be placed at a private funeral home in Borella. His remains will be taken to his residence in Kadawatha tomorrow.
Scores of artists, politicians, senior military officials and the general public paid their final respects to the late veteran artist Jackson Anthony. Former President Mahindra Rajapakse also paid his final respects to the late Jackson Anthony.
හැම පැත්තෙම දක්ෂ. ඒකෙදි තමයි අපිට නැති උනේ. ඒක කලාවට රටට විශාල පාඩුවක් කියලා මම ළඟ තුමාගේ අභාවය.
The mortal remains of late Jackson Anthony will be taken to his residence in Kadawatha tomorrow, and his final rites will be observed on Thursday morning at the Ragama Roman Catholic Church.
මගේ අතීත මිතුරා, ඒ කියන්නේ ගමේ යාළුවා. ඔහුත් එක්ක තමයි මම මේ ගමන ආවේ. ඔහු අපට දෙවියන් දුන් දායාදයක්. මේ හා සමාන දක්ෂතාවයන් රැසකින් යුක් මිනිසෙක් මං හිතන්නේ මගේ ජීවිත කාලයේම මට හම්බෙලා නැහැ. මං හිතන්නේ ඒ අඩුව පිරිමහන්න කෙනෙකුත් නැහැ අපිට. ඔබට නිවන් සුව ලැබේවා කියා ආදරයෙන් ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා.
Sri Lanka took on Pakistan in the 2023 Cricket World Cup in Hyderabad, India. Pakistan were given a target of 345 runs for a win. Following the Sri Lankan innings, however, Kusal Mendis was hospitalized after he sustained an injury.
Cricket fans can watch all the action of the ICC Cricket World Cup via the MTV MBC networks, the official local broadcast rights holder of the World Cup. The matches will also be streamed live on www.sirisatv.lk.
The official ICC Men's Cricket World Cup India 2023.
Sri Lankan skipper Dasun Shanaka, who won the toss, opted to bat first. Opening Sri Lanka's innings were Pathum Nisanka and Kusal Janit Pereira. Following the early dismissal of the first wicket with just 5 runs on the board, Pathum Nissanka and Kusal Mendis, who came together, forged a partnership of 102 runs for the second wicket. Opener Pathum Nissanka reached 51 runs in his 10th ODI. Kusal Mendis, carrying the weight of Sri Lanka's innings, achieved his third ODI century in just 65 balls. Today, Mendis entered the record books as the Sri Lankan batsman to score the fastest century in a one-day World Cup cricket match, amassing a total of 122 runs. Sadira Samaravikrama also contributed significantly with a swift 108 runs alongside Mangala's ODI century. He accumulated these runs in 89 balls, comprising 11 fours and 2 sixes. Hassan Ali managed to take 4 wickets in his bowling performance.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the News First team.
And I'm Theruni Karunaratne. Take care and good night.